Hello there, folks. Remember Peter Bone, the ex-Tory MP and regular panellist on Jeremy Vine's show? Well, they had to get shot of him because it transpires he was a serial bully with a wee bit of sexual misconduct thrown in for good measure. His departure left behind a slot that needed filling. Requirements for the role, you ask? Well, bigoted, out of touch, boring, reactionary, ancient, preferably currently sitting Tory MP. Allow me to introduce you to Christopher Chope, the Conservative MP for Christchurch in Dorset. I have no idea what the point of this guy is. The subject is the ongoing unrest in the United Kingdom, and I would just like you to note his commitment to keeping alive the flame of racism and Islamophobia. Let's take a look.
I don't accept that premise that this has been whipped up by the media.
By the media and politicians.
Underlying all this, there is a genuine concern in the country about the population explosion. 2 million extra people in the last 10 years. Can we accommodate all those people? We've got the...
As far as I'm concerned, it's the job of any government to invest in the future of the country. This idea he's throwing around, that we have had a population explosion, is of course a total red herring. Because had the population remained at the levels he seemingly desires, there would be far fewer people of working age, and that would inevitably lead to the collapse of the country. We need to import labour as our population ages. And one would hope any government would realise it's especially important to invest in public services when the population is increasing. But this complacent fool was a proud member of the political party that imposed austerity during a time critical investment was required. And now he has the cheek to sit there saying we cannot accommodate the people we need in the labour market to keep the head of our nation above the waterline. A representative of the party of poverty and food banks and destroyer of public services, suggesting the people keeping this country going are to blame for bigoted fools destroying libraries and hurling missiles at mosques. Make it make sense. Anything to direct the blame away from himself and his party. You know, the people who had the power for 14 years and did nothing.
Boats coming in large, people on those boats in very large numbers, and people are concerned about it.
No, they're not concerned.
Excuse me, but I've just been through a general election campaign, knocked on lots and lots of doors, and I know from talking to people that they are concerned, and to suggest that
hang on, let him finish.
To suggest that the people in Christchurch are racist is absurd.
No,
these are not people who are racist. These are people who are concerned.
Narinder, why do you say he's giving them misinformation?
They're concerned because you're giving them misinformation and lies. It is a fact that especially some Tory politicians have been feeding the general public lies. And you cannot legitimise...
What lies? What like?
Well, Suella Braverman, all the lies she's been telling, all this Islamic rhetoric, this anti-Islam, that they're the problem. And Tory politicians have got a responsibility. I do not expect my politicians to be lying and giving misinformation. Therefore, the public...
Well, let Chris defend himself.
The public feed on this.
I'm going to put out a fact and see whether you accept this. And that is that 18% of our prison population describe themselves as Muslim. And that is 3 times the proportion of Muslims in the population.
Well, I'll give you another fact.
That is a fact.
It's not your fact that is the problem, Chope. It's your curious placement of this fact into this particular conversation. If we are talking about the riots and the Southport atrocity, Muslims have absolutely nothing to do with any of it. Other than, of course, being targeted by the rioters. due to Andrew Tate, Nigel Farage, and Tommy Robinson's misinformation service. So again, it's not the fact itself. It's that you come armed with this fact and insert it into a conversation about something we know to be unrelated. But of course, Chope does not care whether it's related or not, because he's going to take his opportunity to have a pop at Islam. Because that's who he is.
I'll give you a fact that I think it's 18%, I don't know if you can check, of our NHS are immigrant people.
Okay, well, that might be.
So,
it might
okay,
be. It
so
might be.
we can balance that all day, but you as a politician, Christopher, are giving out this rhetoric that, 18% of prison population was... Again, you're inflaming all of this.
I'm not.
Have you got no idea what's going on in the country right now? People of colour, lives are at risk, and you're sat here on national TV saying, actually, the population in prisons is Muslim, 18%. That's a terrible thing to say
Let him
right
answer.
now.
Let him answer.
Well, I've just described as a fact.
You're adding
hang on,
petrol.
Miranda, don't-
Let's look at what has happened recently. People were really alarmed to see 3 young children murdered in the horrific circumstances in which they were murdered in Southport. And they were so shocked about that they engaged in civil disorder.
They were lied that it was a Muslim.
No.
The perpetrator was
Just
Muslim.
let me make my point.
Let him get to the end.
And I'm going to draw an analogy between that and what happened in 2011 in Tottenham, where we had a situation where a man of colour was shot by the police, and that created an enormous reaction in the community.
Only in one community, not across the country.
In the community in Tottenham, which then led to riots across
But through misinformation, right? You both agree that there was misinformation on it?
But that was not the 2011. That was just in Tottenham. But you're talking about the murder of 3 beautiful young girls. And actually, the reason we've got riots is because these rioters, these thugs, these terrorists were actually given misinformation by media, by their little leaders, that this was a Muslim perpetrator. Yeah. He was actually Christian.
Okay,
That's a fact, Christopher.
No one has been convicted yet.
It's classic stuff, really. So he inserts a random fact about criminality within the Muslim community, and then casually diverts the conversation back to the tragedy of Southport. It's a subtle but seamless transition, but it's just classic dog whistle stuff, and I'm sure it lands on some of the more naive viewers of this programme.
Chris, your party's being criticised for stoking it.
Well, that is a ridiculous accusation, and what I'm concerned about is that so much of this discussion is looking at this through the prism of colour and race. It's nothing to do with that. It's about criminality and whether people support the rule of law. And if people are criminals, then regardless of their colour or race, they should be put behind bars. And that's what we're talking about. And trying to...
But black and brown people are being targeted.
Well,
only brown and black, and particularly Muslims, are being targeted.
Okay.
I'm going to just draw your attention to the fact that in Hartlepool, in May, there was an asylum seeker who was convicted and sentenced to 44 years imprisonment for an unprovoked murder of a 70-year-old pensioner.
We're talking about the riots now.
And so that is a fact. That was in the paper.
Oh boy, another fact. It's like listening to Steve Wright in the afternoon. Oh, goodness me. I mean, just another fact, randomly tossed out from seemingly nowhere. I wouldn't mind if he had a point or offered some kind of solution, but his whole plan seems to be to point out statistics or random acts of criminality within certain communities and use it to tarnish the entire community. I don't understand what he personally gets out of behaving like this. People will defend him in the comments saying, "Oh, he's just stating facts. Oh, he's just stating facts, mate. Oh, his facts are ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous, in the context of what happened in Southport."
Incident.
44 years.
So
Wow.
people in Hartlepool will have been aware of that, and you don't seem to want to accept that.
No, we do accept that, but you're not you've just brought up one incident of an asylum seeker. So again, you are demonising asylum seekers. Why not just say a man? You're demonising asylum seekers again. You have thrown petrol on the flames. We've got a country with the streets on fire right now, with brown people fearing their lives. Do you have no compassion?
Let him answer.
That asylum seeker demonised himself by murdering somebody.
But
Okay,
we've got white
hang on a
men
minute. Let's take another call. Thank you, Joe. Jacqueline in London. Hi, Jack.
He was very pleased with himself upon the delivery of that zinger, wasn't he? That was almost like his mic drop moment, or the Tory Toff MP equivalent of a mic drop moment, a tea sipping moment. Let's have another look at that.
By murdering somebody.
But
Okay,
we've got white
hang on a
men
minute. Let's
who
take another call. Thank you, Joe. Jacqueline in London. Hi, Jack.
Oh, what a tit. He does appear to relish conflating various issues to exploit the racial tensions by throwing out grenades disguised as facts to further rile up the audience. And unlike most other right-wing politicians we have seen, he didn't even attempt to condemn the rioters in any way, shape or form. Channel 5 need to have a good think before inviting Chope back, because his divisive agenda is there for all to see. He could just be attempting to cover for the shortcomings of his party, or he could be one of those who loves to watch the world burn from his ivory tower. Probably a bit of both. Thank you for watching, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers.